Probably the question that I get asked the most frequently is why? Why did I start Streets? But I think maybe the answer is why not? I think that's the best answer I have. Why not when we come from rich and developed areas and where we have expertise and education and capabilities? Why not take all of that and use it in some way to help others that are much, much less fortunate in ways that we almost can't imagine.
For 18 months, Streets brings poor, disadvantaged, orphaned, and trafficked kids to classrooms and a teaching kitchen in Hoi An, Vietnam. They graduate with an international culinary or hospitality certificate and go on to work in top 5-star hotels and resorts. It is their only chance to transition out of poverty and life on the streets.
A lot of people think we had moved to Hoi An and fell in love with it. It's a lovely city. It's really a beautiful little town. But that's not how it happened. We had actually done market research. We needed to open Streets in a place that had a good number of tourists coming through each year, and that would facilitate having a restaurant that could be popular and drive business, because the restaurant actually helps support the program. So we need a lot of tourists to help support the program as well as give the practical applications of working in a busy restaurant.
I think part of what's made Streets work so well and why it has so much potential for the future is in part because we kind of developed the model for Streets and continues to be somewhat business-oriented. It's not just a conventional charity. A lot of what we do comes from running the restaurant, and certainly the proceeds of the restaurant to support, to the extent it can, the other components of our very comprehensive program.
The English language program is really one of the most important things we're doing with these kids. It makes the difference between having a job in a local restaurant, barely making enough money, to being able to have careers in the top resorts and hotels. And we have a training center where we have a teaching kitchen and we have classrooms for English and for hospitality, and we have a 16-station computer English language lab. But where they're really getting their practice and their understanding of how a restaurant works and how a kitchen works and how to deal with guests is at the restaurant. We wanted it to stand on its own, and it does. People come to Streets not because it's, oh, they're doing a good thing and help these poor kids. It's a great restaurant. We hear night after night, this is the best food and the best service that we've had. And then we know when these kids go on to the resorts that the feedback we're getting is these are great employees. They can speak English, they can listen to the guests, they understand a strong work ethic. The trainees that are in the front of the house get a chance to practice their English with all sorts of foreigners. But the kids that are in the back of the house, they really weren't getting a chance to practice as much their English. So we created, with some tour operators that are good partners of ours, a program where all of their guests come to Streets and our trainees in the back of the house take them on tours of the local market, where they're able to explain to them about the different fruits and vegetables, some of the unusual foods that you would see in the market, and a little bit about what everyday life is.
From the early on, before we were even on the ground in Hoi An, with the idea of being ambitious, we worked with many of our friends and colleagues here at ICE to develop our curriculum, our culinary curriculum, and our front of house curriculum.
The whole process of taking these kids from the streets and to educate them into a profession that they can have a lifelong opportunity of employment, of moving up into positions that they would just never get a chance to do otherwise, is something that's just not just invaluable, it's rare.
What I like to tell people when they ask us questions, oh, where do you find jobs for the kids? Is it difficult? We have more jobs than we have kids finishing the program.
The reputation of the Streets trainees and the quality that they bring to the staff of these various organizations is incredible. So we're getting calls from them. It's not like we're knocking down doors and saying, oh, please hire our trainees. No, it's the other way around.
The passion that led me to think that the kids in Class 1 were going to all go on to work at 5-star resorts, in spite of their background, as I often say, kept me up a lot of nights in the beginning. Could we really deliver? Could we really connect and spend time in education and language learning and apprenticing with kids with just such terrible, horrible backgrounds, and work with them to get jobs at resorts? Not just jobs, but to start careers. Careers that brought with it dignity and self-sufficiency, because that's really what we're doing. It's not about jobs, it's about dignity and self-sufficiency. I always felt that regardless of how difficult, how poor, how limited a young person's background might be, that we still should think of their future with a big lens, with lots of possibilities. But what's changed is now we see we can do it. We have kids working just as we said we would at the best 5-star resorts in our area. Kids that don't not just have jobs, but have careers. How do you tell the story? How do you describe the transition of a kid who never had enough to eat, who came from an orphanage, who maybe has been trafficked, comes out of an HIV environment? You have kids from a leprosy village. How do you tell the story of those kids who within a couple years are starting careers in international hotels and resorts? How do you capture in words that remarkable, dignified transition and all the possibilities that go with it? That's what the story of Streets is about. That's what it was in the beginning, and that's what it is even more, with more strength and with more confidence today. What are the possibilities for the future? As we see, this really works. We're changing lives in ways that no one could have imagined.